You ever been in that situation where you're just trying to help, right? You've got this piece of perfectly good, well-intentioned advice and you give it, only to have it completely blow up in your face. Suddenly, you're the bad guy. It is such a frustrating experience, and we have all been there on both sides of that conversation. So today, we're going to dig into why that happens, and we're going to uncover a simple, kind of profound bit of wisdom that can totally change how we communicate. So, here it is. This is the big question we're tackling. Why does a perfectly logical, helpful, and, correct piece of advice sometimes just fall on deaf ears? Or even worse, why does it start a fight? Well, it turns out it's not always about what we say. A lot of the time, the real problem is when we say it. And this gets right to the heart of it. Just think about a time you were really wrestling with a problem, or maybe just sitting with a really big, heavy emotion. In that exact moment, the absolute last thing you want is someone else's right answer, even if it is the right answer. What you really need is just space, the space to figure it out for yourself. Okay, so this feeling of frustration, it is completely universal. We have all been the person giving the advice and the person getting it at the wrong time. So let's start by breaking down what's actually going on inside our heads when a helpful comment feels, well, more like an attack. This right here. This captures that feeling perfectly. You're in the zone. You're deep in your own process. You're working through the gears of a problem your own way. You're totally focused. And when some outside hand, even a really well-meaning one, comes in and points out a flaw or offers a shortcut, it doesn't feel like help. It feels like an intrusion. It shatters your concentration. And honestly, it can feel like a critique, like they don't trust you to figure it out on your own. So if just jumping in with the right answer is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, it's not about having an even better answer. It's about understanding the language of wisdom itself, which, as it turns out, is pretty quiet. And for our words to really land, to be truly wise, they have to be apropos, which is just a fancy way of saying they need to be relevant and fitting for that specific moment. And that little idea leads us to a much, much bigger one. Just sit with this for a second. Timing is the quiet language of wisdom. I mean, wow. It suggests that the most powerful communication isn't about being the loudest person in the room, or even the most correct. It's about sensing the right moment. It's all about restraint. And this brings us right to our core concept for today, timely restraint. It is the conscious, active decision to hold back, to wait, to listen, and to really read the room before you offer your 2 cents. It's recognizing that the value of your words is completely tied to the other person's readiness to hear them. So, the big question is, how on earth do we know when they're actually ready? Well, generally speaking, people are not ready for advice when they're in one of 2 key states of mind. They're either in a state of intense focus or a state of intense feeling. And even though those seem really different, the reason our advice fails is surprisingly similar for both. This chart just breaks it down perfectly. Let's look at the focus state. Their goal is to finish a task. When you jump in with logic, it feels like an interruption. Now, look at the emotional state. Here, the goal is to process feelings. And when you jump in with that same logic, it feels totally invalidating, like you're dismissing how they feel. See the pattern? In both cases, the person isn't looking for an answer from the outside. The focus person needs space to think, and the emotional person needs space to feel. Rushing in with a solution just steamrolls over both of those needs. Okay, to pull all of this together, let's use a really powerful and simple metaphor. It makes this whole idea of timely restraint crystal clear. I want you to imagine that your advice is a beautifully wrapped gift. It's thoughtful, it's valuable, it's something the other person would genuinely love to have. But you can't just throw it on their doorstep in the rain, right? A gift needs someone to receive it. And if that person isn't home, and by that I mean if they're not in the right mental or emotional state to receive it, your gift just sits there, completely unopened, useless. But when you wait, when you see that the door is open and they're ready to welcome you in, the whole exchange is different. The gift is received. It's not just heard, it's welcomed. And that, right there, is the entire difference between being truly helpful and just being another interruption. So how do we actually put this into practice? How do we become these wiser communicators who know exactly when to offer our gift? It really just comes down to these 3 simple steps. First, and this is the hardest one, just pause. That tiny moment of silence is unbelievably powerful. Second, do a quick assessment of their state, using what we just talked about. Are they deep in focus on a task, or are they swimming in a strong emotion? And finally, just ask yourself that simple, metaphorical question. Is anyone home? Are they actually ready for this gift? And that's really the question I want to leave you with. It's a small internal check-in that can totally transform your interactions. It can prevent so much unnecessary frustration, and it makes sure that when you do speak, your words are received not as an interruption, but as the truly valuable gift they were always meant to be. So before you offer your wisdom, will you remember to check if the door is open first?